Today is December 16th, and my name is Karen Neurohr. I'm a librarian at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. I work in the Oral History Research Department. I'm here today with former President Dr. James Halligan, and we are conducting this interview as part of the O State Stories interview project. Thank you for coming today for the interview.
I'm honored to be included. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Appreciate your time very much. So this is actually the second time that we've met to talk and interview. In the first interview, you covered things such as your childhood, your military experience, your college degrees, your college experience, and then some of the early steps in your career. You talked about University of Arkansas, New Mexico State, your family life, along the way, and things like that, and of course the universities that you served prior to coming to OSU in 1994. So today, let's move into your time here at OSU. You came as a seasoned college president, having served at New Mexico State for 10 years, was it?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So how did this matter coming into the job here that you had been president at a land-grant university? In what ways did that make a difference?
Well, I really wanted to come to a land-grant school. I had been approached by other institutions, but they weren't land-grant schools. And Ann and I grew up in the hinterlands of Iowa, and therefore we thought the mission of a land-grant school, we felt very comfortable in that kind of environment. And so I actually was going to an NCAA meeting in Indianapolis and was asked to stop by for a visit. They were kind enough to extend an offer to chat. And so I met the committee in Tulsa at a hotel. And after the necessary preliminaries, I remember I said, I'm a noses in, fingers out kind of guy. If you want to run it, don't hire me. That's a condition that I want to place on our relationship, so I don't want to mislead you here at the beginning as to what I think the role of the board is to be able to have their nose in and smell anything, see if something smells bad to them, make a decision whether or not they want to fire the president. They can do that at each meeting if they'd like to do that. Not interested in a long-term contract. That's not who I am. I would like to be tenured in chemical engineering, since someday I hope to go back and teach in chemical engineering. Didn't happen that way, but that was my intent at the time. And I said, I'm here and I'll answer any question you want. And we had a significant discussion as to what I thought was important. And then we were invited to the campus for an interview. Ann wasn't along when I met the first time. Whenever they meet Ann, then they know they want to hire me because they want Ann. So, but in any event, so we came here, and I sort of knew Roger Webb was a very, very accomplished president, and he was also a candidate or was under consideration at that time. And actually, Ann went to bed, and I was in the process of getting ready to go to bed when they called and said, we'd like to have you come down and talk. And so we were.
Right then?
Yeah, we put on our clothes, went down in the student union and had a little chat. And I sort of reiterated, I said, the people in New Mexico have said there's nothing they can offer you that we won't match. There's nothing. So don't think that there isn't something. We're good for whatever they'll offer you. So I said, we need to enter into a relationship where you want me and I want you. Neither one of us need to have each other. And so I said, if the public vote is not unanimous among the regents for my appointment, I will refuse it on the spot. So let's have that clear before we continue. And then noses in, fingers out. And I want to be tenured in chemical engineering. I said, that's pretty much it. I've loved my time in New Mexico. I think um, uh, I was noted by the governor as the best president in the history of the institution at an event. And so I just think it's time for me to move on. I don't like to do anything. I resolved a long time ago not to do anything longer than 10 years. That's just happen to be who I am. And so I'm sort of looking around for a job. And so if you're interested, I'm interested.
Okay, there's two things
Sure.
that I want to go back to
Sure.
just real quick. So one of them is the noses in, fingers out.
Right.
So when did that start to develop, that philosophy with you, that you just knew how important that was to be able to successfully lead the university?
Well, when I was at the University of Arkansas, I was there 5 years, and I was Dean of Engineering for 3 years, and sort of Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, number 2 provost, whatever you want to call it, for 1 year, and then Chancellor for a year. And I saw what I considered to be intrusion into the institution on the part of the governing board.
What do you feel like the governing board should be doing?
They set policy and they decide whether or not the president is doing a good job, and if not, they fire him or her and get another one. They can at any time institute a numerical audit of anything's going on. They can have someone come in and see if there's something going on that's inappropriate. They can have their noses into everything. If they start to decide who I'm going to hire, when I'm going to hire, who I'm going to fire, I'm out of there.
Okay, and then your 10-year philosophy of 10 years, where does that come from?
Well, when I was with Exxon in Baytown as a chemical engineer, they had been very kind. This is the vanity displayed here is just unbelievable, but they had been very kind. They thought we might rise to the position of vice president of Exxon, so they wanted to put me on this fast track and all this sort of business. And I remember when I said I don't want to do that. Anne was involved in that, and she said she didn't want to do it either. We really wanted to experience life, and just for us, that meant some variety in life. Now, there are people who are in the same bridge group for all their lives. They have such a meaningful life, it's very important to them, etc. I salute them for that. I just don't happen to be that way. And so I'm probably the most impatient individual you could possibly have sitting in this chair. I have great difficulty. In recent social occasion, I had to get up and go to the bathroom, even though I didn't have to go, just because I was going crazy sitting there. So I'm very impatient. And I always say to myself, you can't get it done in 10 years, Halligan. What are the odds you're going to get it done?
Okay.
And I think every organization is refreshed when they have a new leader with different challenges and different expectations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What were some early opportunities you saw here at OSU? What was presented to you as opportunities, and what was not presented to you that you learned after you came?
Well, the individual who was sort of running the campus was a gentleman by the name of Marvin Keener. He was from the mathematics department. Wonderful individual. Wonderful is not adequate to describe how valuable this institute, how valuable he was to this institution. Just a very good man. And he flew out after I was accepted that position. He flew out to Las Cruces. I didn't want to leave right away to give them a chance to sort of position the institution. So I think we accepted it, I don't know, like in April or something like that, and I came in the fall. Mm-hmm. And so he came out with a report, and it gave me a chance to sort of talk to him. It turned out that the enrollment had gone down every year in a row for 11 years, if I'm not mistaken. The engineers call that monotone decreasing. Every year it got smaller. And they had a study that they thought probably 12 to 14,000 was the right size for Oklahoma State University. And I learned that there had been some overspending both in athletics and at the College of Osteopathic Medicine, and that they had some budgetary issues. I'll leave it at that. And you always know when you take a job, they don't tell you the bad stuff, they tell you the good stuff. But in any event, so when I came here, the first thing I thought we had to fix was the enrollment. If the enrollment just keeps going down, then good people leave. Every time a position opens up, you have to subsume it in terms of the budget. And therefore, they just see it getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And as a result, some of those who remain would have difficulty getting employment elsewhere. If I can state that in a delicate fashion. So one of the first things I did was I asked the chief financial officer, I want you to go through every dean and director's budget, and I want to know how much money they're hiding. Okay, because if you're not hiding a little money and you're a dean and director, you shouldn't be dean or director because you know bad things are going to happen. So you should have a little emergency fund that you've tucked away somewhere. And we would meet at the student union. We met numerous occasions, all of them in a room. And I said, the enrollment in your division next year, the increase will be an integral part of your evaluation of your performance.
And how did that go across?
I said, I know how much money you have, and dig up the box. I was famous for this. Dig up the box, shoot off the lock, and spend it, or I will. The enrollment is going up next fall. It turns out not too long ago, an individual who was dean said to me that on the way out of the meeting, he said to me, you know, it's not normally the responsibility of a dean to be managing enrollment. And I said, well, if it can't occur, that means we might need to get a different dean.
Well, the enrollment.
And so the enrollment went up every year.
Sure, yeah.
Went up every year. I was here. And the minute I stopped, it stopped going up. And then we had something called no rookies on rookies, which meant that I had all the people who taught freshman courses invited to the president's house. And personally would visit, algebra was killing us. And so I personally would visit algebra courses when the students were there. And so I highlighted that importance to us. And I said, we're not going to have people in here who can't speak English. If you can't staff it without doing that, please let me know. Come and tell me you can't do it.
Did anyone?
No. I then had all of the custodians, all the janitors, to the house. First time many of them had buses, we brought them all to the house. And I said, you can help us because A, keeping it clean would be very important for us. And then B, if somebody's just staying in a room and not going to class, let somebody know. There's somebody there, you can tell us, we need to know that, you can help us, you're an integral part. And then I said something that was very meaningful to them, I could tell. I said, as long as I am president, we will not farm out your services to someone who cuts your benefits such that they can get a cheaper contract. So I said, we are in this together. And I tried to really emphasize how important this was. We had something called Celebrate State, which I had a committee of, many times the staff members are not recognized as much as they should be. And so I had a committee of the staff and said, so what should I be doing? I thought they had a great idea. It was an interesting idea. So almost every Friday I was here, we would leave my office Friday afternoon about 3 o'clock. We would have 72 cookies in a big basket, okay, and balloons and a certificate. And we would walk in on some staff member, somebody somewhere, and say, you are our Celebrate State hero for this week. And we would present this to them. And we would have alerted people around so there'd be some people there, take pictures and so on. And the student newspaper was in trouble, well, at the time. And so we would buy advertisements in the student newspaper to make certain that the people saw that they were recognized and so on. But so Celebrate State was a great success, I thought, and did it all the time I was here. And then the last thing we did, which I thought was a moment of ultimate vanity, but nevertheless we did it. You could have your picture taken with the president. We had Polaroid cameras in those days. We had 3 people with Polaroid cameras. Students would line up, particularly international students, would love to be able to send a picture home to their parents of them and the president. And you could sit in the president's chair. So in my office, you could come and sit there and have somebody take your picture. It sounds pretty hammy, but they loved it. They just ate it up. And finally, we started events whereby we would have, we had Bill Cosby and other people as part of student success. I gave the students $300,000 and said we had them at the institution I was at before, Garth Brooks, and an amazing array of people came to New Mexico State. And so we were trying to do the same thing here. And
was that Orange Peel? Or
Orange Peel.
It was Orange Peel. So you started that here.
Yes.
And you had something similar at New Mexico State.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
And so the bottom line of it all is we did those things, and the enrollment went up every year.
That's good. That's certainly a tremendous success story there.
Well, but you got to make certain. It was making it very clear. See, I think I always say to myself, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
So you were building culture.
If you don't have the right culture, I don't care what strategy you got. It's not going to work. The first thing you got to work on is culture. You got to change the culture on this campus, period. And people can sense whether or not the president is actually intimately involved in that. I also wrote, I don't believe in long-term plans, 10-year plans, 5-year plans, and so on. I think they're ridiculous. And I don't think you should have a committee to draw them up. So 3 weekends shortly after I arrived, I sat and wrote, it has to be on one page that people can easily read, and says, this is what we're going to do. This is what's important to us.
Strategic directions type of a document.
But if you're the one that's going to be held responsible whether or not you achieve it, why let somebody who has no responsibility whatsoever try to tuck in something that'll be to his or her benefit, and here you are trying to achieve it when you know it's not that important? If you're the one that's responsible for moving this institution forward, you ought to write down that's what it is. And so there's a one-pager I've been hanging out in my garage, in fact. This is it, guys. This is what we're trying to do.
When that, were those publicized?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I signed it.
And were they done every year?
No.
No.
No. This is the strategy is not something that should be changed. It should be sufficiently nebulous, to be absolutely honest with you, that it is something that's not easily achievable, but that is very important. But culture eats strategy for breakfast. You just got to get the culture right. and you got to do it right now. In other words, we're not going to have people teaching algebra that the parents come to the president and say, my daughter has so many algebra classes they can't understand.
Mm-hmm.
That is done right now.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine that would impact retention.
Boom.
Very well.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And I also said, if you, we all know that if we have 1,000 faculty, roughly, okay, we have 1,000 faculty, we have some faculty that are difficult. And I said, so don't say to me there's nothing I can do about it because they're tenure. I said, when I was in a dean or a department head, I can control when you teach, what you teach. And I told one person he'd teach at 7 o'clock in the morning till Hades froze over, and he would be there on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. And before very long, he departed. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me that. I said, if you can't address those issues, then we need to get someone who can.
Mm-hmm. So your experience, your past experience as dean,
was essential, absolutely essential. I think it is. I'll stop.
Important.
It was very important to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Let's move into what was happening in Tulsa. I know that there were. I actually took classes at UCAP.
Oh, did you?
UCAP, I did. Yes. Yeah, I took a couple of classes there.
Yes.
As a commuter student.
Yes.
And so there were always things in the news about the dissolving of UCAT and
yes. Yes.
the whole breakup of the I think the 4 universities
Roger Randall and
that were part of UCAT.
Yes.
Yeah, that whole thing. And so there were efforts then for OSU to have a home base, more permanent home base of its own in the Tulsa area that were in the works before you came.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so when you came, what was the situation with all of that?
Well, there were several sort of cross currents. One of the interesting cross currents, the board kindly said to me, we think you ought to attend every meeting of the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce. I said, wow, I've got a few things going over here, but they said, no, we think this is really important. They're, and many of them, it is in a very nice way, I want to say, okay? It was just, many of them were important persons in the Tulsa community, and they said that Oral Roberts could be in trouble, and so we'd like to have you become friends with Richard Roberts and see if you can sort of help them along a little bit. That'll be part of your responsibility. And then the question is, will UCAT, or whatever it was you wanted to call it, become a separate institution, or what's going to happen there? How is this going to sort out? And so Roger Randall, who was running the place at the time, actually went to Mexico. I can go on and on with this story, but Ann and I went to Mexico with Roger and his wife, Judy. And I don't know, 4 or 5 days, 6 days, something like that. We sort of went around Mexico, ended up in Yucatan and things like that. And but I was sort of trying to get the lay of the land. And of course, President Holloway was at Langston, and they had a position in Tulsa and trying to negotiate all of these pieces, etc. And then it turned out, well, I can just spend an hour talking about this. The chair of the Board of Regents, which oversees all regents, the big board.
The higher,
higher education. Yes. Okay. Was a good friend of mine, and it's always important to know these people, who they are. It's an integral part of your responsibility as president. So he said he thought something was going to happen in Tulsa, that it sort of reached a breaking point, and that people in the community wanted something to happen. So I was sort of interviewed, and Walt Helmrich and Payne, and George Kaiser. There was a lot of very important people over there who really were committed to Oklahoma and Tulsa, and I thought were of good faith. I chatted with them, I would say. They chatted with me. And so, much to Ann's surprise, I think, I said, we can work it out, Ann and I will we'll have a place where we can live part-time in Tulsa. And I remember Walt Helmrich, who's a wonderful man, called me on the phone. I was going to a meeting in Ponca City with the oil company, but so he said, "Jim, are you driving?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I don't talk to people who are driving." So I said, "Well, I'll pull off." So I pulled off, and he said, "We want you to move in with us." And I said, "Well, that's a very, very expensive place where you're living." I said, "That would not go over well with the taxpayers, nor I think with the faculty. I'm flattered that you think of it." And I remember he said, "Jim, we want you to move in with us." And I said, well, if the price is right, we can probably do it. And so we had a meeting with the Tulsa delegation, Penny Williams and other people, Senator Ford, not the Ford from Tulsa. And so we had some pretty intensive discussions, and they said, how would this work, Halligan? And I said, well, one of my sons works with Dell Computer. And I said, Dell Computer has many locations. So I said, I think the best thing would be one university, multiple locations. And I said, we could have a provost in Tulsa. And one of them said he didn't know whether it was provost or provost. And nobody in the business world knew what that really meant. So I said, okay, you can be a president. And they said, so what's your title going to be? And I said, I don't care what my title is. I said, president, that's fine with me. Presidents report to presidents, who cares, okay? So anyway, so we made those kind of negotiations. And then it looked as if it probably would go elsewhere. But the lobbyist by the name of Robert White, who worked for us, had been president of student body at OU. But now he had departed from OU, and so I knew of his expertise, and so I hired him. And that when he came to work in the morning, he knew what his goal was. He was intense to show some people that they may have made a mistake in their judgments. And so we, through God works in strange and wondrous ways, we made our way into the governor's office very late at night, and with a guy by the name of Ken Lackey, who was a person of great influence, senior staffer to the governor's ministry. We had an intensive negotiation occurred, and I remember I got home about 1:30 or something like that, and obviously wondered what had happened, and I said, we got it. She's name it. So then we occupied the same building that Helmrichs were in, and they were very kind to us. And so I sort of did both jobs there for, I don't know, a year or something like that. And so we got it. Let's see, I want to go back to, we're talking about when I first arrived. Some people might wonder why we had the priority on athletics that we had. And I must say, when I came here, once I got here on the ground, the number of people who approached me and said, our athletic facilities are absolutely abysmal, with the exception of the golf course, which Mike Hunter had done. Mike Holder. So that had to be a priority. Absolutely had to be a priority. And I need to salute the students. They were kind enough to pass a fee specifically to fund a portion of the improvements we had in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to the city, and the board was apprehensive about having the city pass a tax solely for the benefit of intercollegiate athletics. I didn't think it was a risk. I thought we just had to do it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't any risk. Either we do it or we won't succeed. And so I met with the city fathers, and they were kind enough to have an election in the city, and it passed, which allowed us to sleep a little bit better. And then, in a moment that you always sort of remember, every time I saw him recently, and I said, I'm sure you don't realize what an impact it had in my life. I had been told that you just couldn't raise any money for athletics at Oklahoma State by a previous senior official over there. And he walked up to me. I barely knew him. I knew his name was John, and that was about all. And he handed me a check for $1 million. Mm. And that told me we could do it.
He wanted that check to go toward what? Whatever.
Athletics, whatever.
The university.
Well, he knew.
Athletics.
He realized where we were. Mm-hmm. That we had to make dramatic improvements, and so then we were looking for a football coach and an athletic director, and we waited 1 year for our athletic director to come here. He was at the University of Arkansas, and I had. When I was at the University of Arkansas, I became great friends with Frank Broyles. I don't know whether I bored you, but we raised $5 million for rare books at the University of Arkansas. I tell you that story, but they not to be done here. But I couldn't do it without Frank, mm-hmm. because he could get in the door. Everybody wanted to talk to him. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Mm-hmm. They knew I was going to ask him for money. So we were great personal friends. And in one of those very moments that I really saluted him for, Frank told me I should leave the University of Arkansas. So I called him on the phone and said, I'm over here at Oklahoma State now, and I think we need a football coach. And he said, Halligan, you don't need a football coach. I said, yeah, I do, Frank. He said, you don't have anything. You need a recruiter. Mm-hmm. You need a recruiter. Let that recruiter get some good people, some talent, and start developing it, and then you can make your way forward. But he said, there's nothing there to coach. So long story short, the University of Colorado had won the national championship in football, rare for them, and knew the coach just a little bit because of New Mexico. Let's just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. And so I called him on the phone, and I said, I understand you work with promise keepers where men agree to keep their promises. Mm-hmm. And so
religious organization.
Yes, that's
yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, my understanding is that if you're a promise keeper, you have to tell the truth. Always tell the truth. And he said, that's right. That's really core to our institution, what I'm trying to do. And I said, if you were the next coach at the university, if you could hire the next coach at the University of Colorado, who would you hire? And he said, Bob Simmons. I said, he's on your staff, right? He said, yes. I said, why won't he be hired? Why wasn't he hired? He said, because he's black.
Oh.
That's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were lucky enough to hire Bob Simmons as our coach. And he beat OU 12-0 the first year. And we went on to have a winning record against OU, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Bumper stickers, Halligan 5, Boren 3, still got one at home. And so that all of that began, people thought we had a chance. They weren't throwing their money away.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Terry Don Phillips came from the University of Arkansas. He had done Walton Arena. When I was at the University of Arkansas, they built a new basketball facility.
Oh.
And the Waltons had paid for it. But Frank was busy raising money, and Terry Don actually did the nuts and bolts and did it. And so we needed to do something with Gallagher-Iver right away. I mean,
why is that?
Well, because our sister institutions in the conference felt that it was not at all representative of what they were trying to portray to the public.
We were the Big 12 conference at that time as well.
They said it was smaller than some arenas for junior colleges in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Did this surprise you that you were going to have to deal with this athletic part of the job when you came, or were you kind of expecting that?
Well, amazingly, we now have an Ignite Center, and when I accepted the job, one of the first calls I got in New Mexico was from Ross McKnight.
Oh.
And he is a very, very, oh my, what a good man. What a good man. But asked some very insightful questions. And that caused me to say, oh, you better check and see what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And of course, they had trouble with the NCAA at Oklahoma State, very serious trouble. And so there were lots of reasons why things weren't moving along. So we had to have some dynamic leadership. And so Terry Don was kind enough to come and later the year. A lot of people said, but he did a great job for us. And knew exactly what to do to Gallagher-Iver. I wanted to expand it at the site, and then Gary Sparks was our architect, and he figured out how to put a roof over it, and then we take the roof down from the inside. And the only thing I said to Terry Don, I wanted to have one more seat than OU.
Oh.
Okay. I said, other than that, I said, I'm really busy doing other things. Why don't you just do this damn thing? It's got to be done. You just did, and keep me up to date and so on. And he would come over at least once a month, but maybe more than that, and just update me on everything going on.
What was his title?
Terry Don.
Mm-hmm.
He was athletic director.
Athletic director.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now they put vice president and all this sort of stuff. The vice president title is all over academic. And but in any event, so we did that, and then we started on the city. And Boone was kind enough to come in and maintaining a relationship with Boone Pickens was very important.
Did you know that when you came early on?
Boone was a celebrated figure when we were in Lubbock. He was on the board of West Texas State University. Mm-hmm. And I have unlimited admiration for Boone Pickens, but he became celebrated with respect to his interactions with the president of West Texas State. It became publicly known, publicly discussed. I think I'll just leave it at that. But anyone who is an unbelievably successful Boone Pickens is a very strong personality. And I always remember he would say in very, very clear terms, that I edit a little bit here, Halligan, if you can't say it in half a page, you don't know what you want or why you want it, and I will not read it. I'm not going to read any damn long report, Halligan. A half a page and that's it. Okay, the whole shebang right there, I look at it, I go yes or no. That's the way he was, and I thought he was wonderful. I mean, so, and when he talked to you on the phone, it was very clear. There was no ambiguity. So when we were looking for a coach, he would make his plane available, and it was perfect for us in that people would say, oh, Boone Pickens is in town. but we were there to try to secretly talk to their coach or something like that.
Mhm.
So he was just Oklahoma State would not be anywhere near what it is without Boone Pickens, and he he would accept the word no. Sometimes it was difficult for him to say no, but and it was challenging for me to say no. But we had exchanged those in very clear terms, and after a suitable period of time, he loved the institution, and he would suffer guys like me to not be able to see things as clearly as he could.
Hmm.
Let's see, where were we? We were at
We're
OSU
talking about
Tulsa.
OSU Tulsa.
Okay.
So you were over there part of the time
Yes.
and serving as president there as well as
And
here.
the board said, well, we're going to make you president and system CEO. I said, I don't give a damn what it is, to be honest with you.
You don't, titles aren't important.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
So then, did you encourage Dr. Trinipal
Yes, I did.
to apply to be
Yes,
president?
I did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew him from he got his PhD at Texas Tech, and it's sort of a small community, so I knew him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was kind enough to take the job, and so that I guess I did that for a year and a half, something like that. I remember I would get so tired I had to stop. There's a little place you can pull off on the turnpike coming from Tulsa, and I would pull off there and sleep for 15 or 20 minutes, and then keep going. But we learned to just love the people of Tulsa. It's a very, very good place, and I treasure that time. The institution hasn't made the progress that I would like to have had observed, but that's just my predilection. Others can make different assessments there.
Are there things that changed somewhere along the way that it seemed like it was progressing well for a while, or is it? I mean, sometimes things go back to leadership. Or
everything is leadership.
Everything city politics.
If it isn't happening, get a new leader.
Okay.
And if you're the leader and it isn't happening, go somewhere where you can make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really have to be able to, it sounds like, navigate a lot of things at once to be in that type of a position.
Well, I think you're honored to have the opportunity to try to play poker at that table. I used to be in a poker club, so I think we say more with our signals and our facial expressions and our body language than we do with our voice. Particularly there would be times when I had to make certain that people had other opportunities in life, and those were never easy, but I always felt that to do otherwise was unfair to them. That I think everyone can make a contribution somewhere, and if it's not happening, they're not. You can tell they're sort of not happy. They're not happy. They know you're not happy. Then let's see if we can somehow affect a separation. Just
helping to put people in positions where they can succeed.
Right. Right. And a lot of times, I remember one time an individual was up for tenure and he wanted to speak to the president. He happened to be in music, and he said to me, Halligan, you're a chemical engineer, and he said, you can get a job tomorrow. But he said, I'm a musicologist and I can't. He said, I'm going to be playing the piano in Shaggy's Pizza, and you're going to put a little dollar bill or two in the jar. And I said, unfortunately, my responsibility is to do what I think is in the best interest of the university.
Mhm.
And I do not think it's in the best interest of the university to continue your employment.
Is that difficult?
Yeah, it's never easy.
Yeah. Mhm.
Never easy.
Mhm.
But I still think it was the best thing for him
Mhm.
because it just wasn't working out. And whenever I turned people down for tenure that always wanted to come and see the president, and frequently they're in areas that there's no, for engineering, there's a private sector, and you can most engineering faculty get 25% raise tomorrow. Just go to industry, you know. But in a lot of areas that's not true, and so it's sort of all in for them, and I understand that. But if you are the responsible for guiding the institution, you're not there to look out for their interests. You're looking out for the interests of the institution.
Mhm.
That's
your job, right?
Well, otherwise you get up and leave.
Right. Mhm.
Because you're going to look in the mirror and say, I'm not doing my job.
Mhm.
So that's just the way it is. So.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about Tulsa, let's talk about the Center for Health Sciences at Tulsa. I think it hadn't been around that long. I maybe started in the 70s over there, College of Osteopathic Medicine. Yeah, and so you have changes going on as far as the development of the OSU Tulsa campus.
Right.
And there, so what was happening with the Center for Health Sciences during this time period?
Well, it wasn't the Center for Health Sciences. It was just the College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I must confess, when I came here, no one mentioned that there was a College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Was it affiliated with OSU?
Yes.
It was?
Yes.
Okay.
And so when I arrived, very, very good man. That's not adequate in describing him. Tom Allen was the dean, and they had a budgetary problem of great significance and having trouble balancing the budget, and had been supported to some extent from Stillwater, to a considerable extent. And so after I got here and sort of figured out that we have a problem here, but the best thing to do with the problem is attack it. I mean, you can't just let it sit there. You got to do something with it. Now, there's some problems you leave alone because you know they're going to change with respect to time. You don't solve every problem immediately when you look at it. You decide whether or not I attack this now, or will this change a little bit if it ages, okay? And will people get so desperate that they need a solution that they'll say, for goodness sakes, do something, and they'll accept your solution even though they don't like it, because finally they did something, okay? So you got to bifurcate what you're looking at, and from my perspective, the way I try to look at the world. But anyway, this problem needs to be attacked right now because we were having significant budgetary challenges right here, and then we have another entity that's in Tulsa that we have budgetary challenges with. So when I visited with him, he said he needed to be a Center for Health Sciences, and that's a federal designation, special funds, special pot at the federal level to be able to access that. And you can have programs more than just giving doctors of medicine. You can have other things that you're giving. So it expands the array of degrees that you can award.
Oh, so nursing or radiology, just various health related.
That's right, various health related. And my counsel was, don't replicate what OU already has. Figure out something else. Sort of forensic sciences, okay, something like that. So the bottom line of it all was Henry Bellman was kind enough to be statesman in residence.
He's our former governor.
Former senator. Just a wonderful man.
Alumnus of OSU.
Yes, alumnus of OSU. Been in the Marines, several amphibious landings in the Pacific. I mean, this is the real deal. And had been in Washington, I think, for 12 years in the Senate, and then came back and was governor. And he was kind enough to come to the campus, and we hired him as statesman in residence. And he would interact with some of our people and some of our students, and it was just a wonderful thing to have him here. And so he had great contacts and friends in Washington, D.C. And so we annually we would put together a little agenda, sometimes sort of keeping it to ourselves. What our agenda, what are we really trying to accomplish this year in Washington? And so that was sort of at the top of our list. We needed to see if we could find out, how do you get this designation? Who does it? Where do you do it? There's always, as I say to this is a sexist statement, I guess, but there's always a guy. There's always a guy or a gal that's running a program. There's somebody that's running it. It's not a program for itself. You got to find that person. So who is that person? How do we find that person? And we want to be friends with that person. We want to get to know that person, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So the bottom line of it all is we get things rolling down the track in Washington, D.C. We're coming along. We got this thing in the bottle, we think. And but then we have to have also approval by the state for this to take place. And so we start working that, and there's always, when you want something, there's always somebody that wants something. And they say, well, I sort of want this, you sort of want that, can we sort of meet in the middle here, or, can we work something out here? And so we were in that kind of business, working our way through. And that's just, politics is the art of the possible, not the art of the perfect. You must always remember that. The art of the possible, not the art of the perfect. A lot of people want to tell you just what would be perfect.
Oh.
But it's never. All the perfects are not the same. And so what is possible? What can you possibly get done? And so we're working our way through the House of Representatives. And I took the time. OU had a medical science. They trained some MDs in Tulsa. And so I knew the guy. So I said, so you guys going to really fight us on this, or can we sort of just slide this through and make a difference for us, okay? And he said, no, that's all right. It's okay with us. I said, well, would you just check? He said, yeah, I'll check. So I saw him the next time. I said, it's okay. It's not a big deal to us. It's okay. So we get it through the House, which was not an insignificant thing, I might add, but we'll just leave that in the midst of time. And we're working it up into the Senate, and we get get through committee. Committee chair, I served in the Senate after I stopped being president, so a committee chair can refuse to hear a bill, and that isn't certain death, but it is very close. It's 98% of the way to death. Okay, the probabilities just went down to 2 out of 100. Okay. So anyway, so we're working along, getting it through the Senate. We got it all the way up to the last thing, and then the leader of the Senate, the President Pro Tem is what you call that person, and the chair of Senate Appropriations. Those are the two real important people in the Senate. They sort of control things. They can decide when things come up, etc. They can manage the calendar. And they can manage the calendar such that your bill never comes up. Well, they can. I mean, that's part of it works. That's the way it works. Okay. It's not as how much merit your bill has. There's a lot of things, considerations go into it. So in any event, President Boren and these two individuals and myself are in a room, and President Boren, I think, doing what he should do to defend his people, says this would be a horrible thing to take place. I'm abbreviating this. He can be very detailed and long in his comments, to say the least. But in any event, we'd be dividing the pie that would come to Oklahoma, and the state of Oklahoma made these enormous investments in Oklahoma City. Presbyterian Foundation had built all these buildings for the health sciences campus, et cetera, et cetera. And when he got done, I sort of leaned over he was right there. I leaned over so I could look him right straight in the eye to make certain we were signaling and communicating clearly, and stated in very clear terms that this bill, that he had a chance to kill it in the House, he had a chance to kill it in the Senate committee. Now he wants to embarrass us and show his power. I said, if it doesn't pass, I will announce my resignation as president of Oklahoma State University, because I can no longer rely on the integrity of the University of Oklahoma. I will hold a press conference when we leave here to that effect.
Were you just really blindsided by that? Or did you have an inkling that you might face this when it came right down to it?
I had other interactions that I could, with great confidence, predict how long someone would state their case. So the bill passed, and I'm delighted with Casey Strom. I think she's just wonderful.
She's the current president.
Yes.
Center for Health Sciences.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and she's expanding to interact with the Native Americans in Tahlequah. So there'll be, I don't know what they're calling it, a branch campus or whatever. But anyway, there's going to be multiple locations for the College of Osteopathic Medicine. And when you go around the state, many of these small communities, they have a doctor of osteopathy there.
Yes.
And it's the only thing they have for 30 or 40 miles. I mean, it's nobody's just one or two people there that are serving these people. I mean, it's just absolutely essential that we have a vibrant health sciences center there, and they have continued, as you know, when they had the health settlement. The Attorney General was a graduate of OSU, and I wrote him a personal handwritten note lauding his foresight and expertise. He put that money into the Health Sciences campus in Tulsa to help us address this opioid crisis. So I'm confident it will competition brings out the best in everybody. I believe in competition. It gets you up in the morning. I mean, it says, I'm losing. I got to do something to get this thing going. I mean, it is the elixir of life to compete. And I think it'll be good for both health sciences campuses in Oklahoma. I firmly believe that. I really scared them one time when I talked about OSU having a school of law. I still think we should have it. I was unsuccessful in quite a few things, but that was one thing I was unsuccessful in. But I scared the pants off them.
Oh.
So, but I just, that's what administrators do. So I played for them all the marbles several times.
Where did you get the skills to do that? I mean, with some people, they say, oh, you know, I played sports growing up. I loved sports. You know, that was my first introduction to competition, that kind of thing. Or maybe, you know, where you fell in the family amongst your siblings, you know, and competing with siblings or whatever, you know, sometimes that drives it, or, you know, military experience might develop some of that in people. So what about you?
Well, this is self-laudatory. This whole exercise is an exercise of vanity, but in retrospect, my father didn't give me $100 when I was growing up. And that was a blessing. I didn't realize at the time. It was a blessing. So I had I mean, we worked all the time. All of us worked all the time. That was it. My mother had arthritis, was in a wheelchair. You know, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I went one time to ask my father for money, and I could take you to the spot. He used very colorful language, but he told me never to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose I hitchhiked home, so I suppose I was 14 or 15 at the time, but I needed some money for something. But he told me never do that again. And that it forces you to have inner a steel core.
Yeah.
And that was a blessing. I didn't realize at the time. It was a real blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And here we had a board member who wanted to become involved intimately in athletics, and I arranged for another institute. I was flattered, trying to think the right words here. Another institution flew into Stillwater in an unmarked plane and talked to me about being president of their university, nearby state.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to the governor, with whom I'm still great friends, and said, you got 24 hours. Either this individual resigns from the board or in 24 hours, or I will announce my acceptance of the presidency of another university. And I said the alumni will go absolutely
bonkers.
Bonkers. There you go. There you go. That's what I needed. Bonkers. And the individual was kind enough to tender his resignation. And when I was in New Mexico, I had a board member who was sort of a manic depressive or something like that. Mm-hmm. He would come in and tell me whom I should fire and who I should hire and things like that. And so I sent word to Governor Bruce King, either put the cork in this bottle or I'm gone. Mm-hmm. And he called him in and had a clear conversation with him. It's like I never had a contract. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's good. Well, just me.
For you.
Other people,
okay. Mm-hmm.
people see things differently.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for me, it wasn't good because I didn't want the board to think they owned me. They didn't have me for 3 or 4 more years. Okay. So each meeting, I decide whether or not I want to continue to work for you. And you decide.
Board meeting.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you decide whether or not you want me to continue to work for you. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. I mean, that's the way it is in the private sector. I'm sure the Exxon. I mean, you know. Mm-hmm. But I think it's healthy then, because they can't capture you, and it's very important. I think the board members would come, and when they first were appointed to the board, they would always say tuition fees are too high, almost without exception. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, okay, let's get in my car, and we will drive through the student parking lots. I'll take you through every one of the parking lots that our students have, and you can see their cars.
Enough said, right?
Enough said. Enough said. And I said, I have a different view on this. Other people, they have views in life, and they do their. I was always a Robin Hood individual. By that I mean, let's increase tuition and fees just about as far as we can, and then take some of that money and offer scholarships to those who don't have the money to come. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at the cars in the parking lot, those parents can pay a little more. It's when I came here, I can just rattle on. We had not constructed, both in New Mexico and here, they had not constructed new dorms for a long time. So I came here. As you know, the enrollment had gone down, and there was all kinds of problems. And I remember the first year I was here, first fall, a lady came to my office and said, "You have no right to make my daughter live. You require freshmen to live on campus. This is a terrible place for you having her to live." Okay, and so some of the faculty thought we should have other priorities, but I said we're going to build residence halls. They said, "Why are you going to build residence halls when our enrollment keeps going down?" I said, "It's going to help us turn the enrollment back up." So we've built an enormous number of residence halls since that time.
Which group was that went in first? The over west of Kerr Drummond, that area?
Yeah, west of Kerr Drummond.
Yeah, that whole complex area.
And we did some razzle-dazzle on the bonds that I didn't fully understand. But the key thing was the complaint stopped. The complaint stopped. And we made those more expensive, such that if you're a poor kid, you can live in.
You didn't leave out the kids who couldn't afford it.
That's right. That's right. In other words, we had modest accommodations and luxurious accommodations. So just tell us how much you'd like to pay. It's a market. And so that was an integral part of the first few years, trying to get that thing rolling along. And the board was kind enough to come along and I would make these presentations to them, and then they would vote. One time in their committee, they didn't vote the way that I wanted it to take place. And so I communicated my displeasure, and they decided to change the vote in the full committee. So there are times when well, they are very good people, very wonderful people. They come here, I don't even come to campus 5 times a year. And and people are going to say things to them and so on, but they're not here day in and day out and day in and day out. So sometimes they'll react on what they hear from a few people, and the complainers are the ones that you always hear from.
Yes.
Okay? So you always hear from the complainers, and therefore that would sort of bias their view. And I would try to make certain they knew my views, and then we would see how the vote took place.
Who was helping as far as the residential living on campus?
Ron Beer.
Ron Beer, okay. Student affairs?
Yeah. Then we hired Lee.
Lee Bird.
Yeah. Wonderful lady. Wonderful lady. I was so impressed she's a Native American and female. And during the process, of course, I don't look at this sort of thing, to be honest with you. But I didn't know whether Lee Bird was a male or a female. Didn't care. And it became sort of obvious to me that she didn't want to get the job because she wanted to get the job because she was who I thought was the most competent, most qualified. That clearly came through. And that really impressed me. Really impressed me. Now she was. I thought she did a great job, as you would anticipate. But so that was good. Very good. Very good. So let's see what
we're close to noon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We are. We could talk a little more about fundraising.
Well, we had a campaign called
your campaign.
Yeah, Bringing Dreams to Life.
Yes.
Okay. I think it was the number is $270 million, I think, is what's $260 million, something like that. Okay, that kind of number.
That was the first OSU capital campaign,
That's correct.
so there hadn't been anything like that here.
That's to
Not
my
really.
knowledge. I've never really researched
Okay.
that. People say those sorts of things. I
Mhm.
don't know. It's just like I have the only winning record against OU. I don't know whether or not that's true. People tell me that. Okay, I don't know.
Mhm.
I've been told that numerous times. Okay, but you should put a little salt on that. People, rightfully so, want to be recognized now for a testamentary gift they're going to give to the institution, so it's not revocable, at their passing. So, and of course that goes into your total because they want whistles and bells.
Yes.
And I've given $5 million for blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's wonderful.
Mhm.
It's $5 million, you're not going to get it any other way.
Right.
You can get it that way.
Mhm.
Like, I know there's a $100 million testamentary gift. It would be interesting to see if it takes place, okay, to the institution. I don't know whether it will or not. So, but it wasn't part of that. But so you have these. So some people will say, well, where's the money? And the amount that you get in cash right now across the table is probably less than half of that. But you have to start where you are and take those first few steps and get going. And so, of course, President Hargis raised more than $1 billion. So, and givers give, and you get people's names, and you start building those relationships and all of that. And so we enjoyed it. At the time, some people thought it was pretty good, and so it was just part of the responsibility of being president.
Mhm.
And of course, the role of president has changed dramatically. Someone said to me at a social occasion 3 or 4 nights ago, "You're probably the last academic president of Oklahoma State ever."
Yeah.
That it has changed.
Mhm.
The president has become the chief fundraiser, to be absolutely honest with you. Now, he also influences policy,
Yes.
but his job, the focus of his job, is raising funds. Where if you looked at some of the previous presidents, they went to the legislature, got the money, and that was it.
Mhm.
And so Henry G. went down to the legislature, got the money, came home, and it was over. Where now it's not that way at all at any institution. And therefore,
And not just Oklahoma.
oh no, it's everywhere in the United States.
Mhm.
Everywhere in the United States. The whole concept of the chief executive officer, chancellor, president, whatever you want to call the guy, person, whatever, has changed because, in interesting sort of a side note here, when I stopped being president, I had a Fulbright in Germany, which thoroughly enjoyed, and when I figured out why this strange individual had, we didn't need the money, so it was not a significant amount of money, but why I was being funded, etc. It turns out there was a guy who thought that Germany used to have some of the highest ranking universities in the world.
Mhm.
When you'd see the top 10, Germany had 2 or 3 places in there, etc. And that now was not the case. That both institutions in the United States and Asia really pulled away from him. So he wanted to have someone come who had participated in this kind of campaign, bring names to life,
Mhm.
and talk to some of the rectors. So Ann and I went around to, I don't know, entertain him, something like this.
Is a rector equivalent to
Yeah.
a president?
Yeah, he's a president. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
I remember we were at a gathering in Berlin, and they had 25 or 30 rectors or something like this in the room, and a guy from the German NSF equivalent,
Mhm.
and
National Science Foundation.
but a principal funder of universities. And when this rector stood up and said, "We are rectors, We do not stand on the corner and panhandle people for money. That is not our job. Our job is to be educators, and your job is to give us the money. And I later was across the table from him, and he said, Halligan, okay, I'm the CEO of a company. How do you do this? How do you, I said, well, first thing you got to get to know them. Okay, you got to develop a relationship, etc. And then I said, you want to figure out what they want to fund, not what you want to fund. Mm-hmm. They have something that they're interested in. Mm-hmm. Maybe students, maybe research, maybe a particular building on the campus that they think needs to be improved. You get out of them what you think they want to do at your place that'll make it better. Don't go to them and say, guess what? I have a wonderful idea and I want you to give me the money. That's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So it was, and that was part of bringing dreams to life, was developing those relationships. And people give money to people, not to programs. They always have. Mm-hmm. It is that relationship, and that they think they know you, that they know your rock values. What are those things in life that you will not compromise on, come hell or high water? Okay, they want to know that. Mm-hmm. Because most of them have been very successful, and they have had challenges along. Everybody has challenges along the way. It's just part of it. It's sort of when you look back, sort of the exciting times when you play for all the marbles. You say, "What's going to happen, baby? We could be out of here."
And there are a million things they could give their money to.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. There's a whole bunch of things, and they want to feel that if they give you the money, you will be a good steward of it. Mm-hmm. And so that was it was an honor to be able to do it. We thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know. I'll burn up a couple of minutes and then we'll be done.
Okay.
A couple of exciting things happened while I was president that I think somebody ought to know. Don't know whether you want to go into any of those.
Well, we might save it for our next time.
All right.
Let me circle back to fundraising real quick here.
Sure.
How important is it to have numeric skill sets in higher education administration? You had to develop your mathematical skills for your chemical engineering degree.
Yeah, I took enough mathematics. I think I told you that a math professor approached me and said, "You don't have to take any more coursework with a PhD. Mm-hmm. Get everything you need, and I think you can knock out a thesis in a year." Mm-hmm. Well, it is absolutely essential that he or she have confidence in the chief financial officer. And the one thing I think, just others think differently, you never ask them what we can do next year in terms of salary increases or where we're going to put the money. You say to them, this is what I would like to do next year. I'd like to give a 4% salary increase. I think we need to do a little something in this particular department, etc. Now, if you'll go investigate that, and if you can't do that, come back and tell me. Mm-hmm. That way you have seized the initiative. It's very important that you keep control of that ball. Mm-hmm. Not that they come and say, gee, we're really pressed and it's going to be very difficult for us to do anything next year. Mm-hmm. And some things like I decided when I came here, when you go that many years without hiring anybody really of significance, then when you start growing, you can go back in the market. And I decided to pay more than the market for assistant and associate professors. I would say rightfully so. some of the senior faculty were able to detect that and really did not like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was appropriate on their part.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. But I thought it was best for the institution. I would try to always meet with new faculty every year. And I would say there's a difference between the word teacher and the word professor. Don't come to me 6 years from now with a bunch of students signing petitions that say, you are a wonderful teacher and I should tenure you. That is not why we are hiring you. We are hiring you to be a professor. And a professor is someone who contributes to their discipline and are recognized for that by other members of their discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would try to make certain that we keep just enough peace in the valley that we would preferentially raise salaries as discreetly as possible. I think the 80-20 rule sort of applies. I don't think it's 80-20 for academia, but it is in real estate. They say 20% of the people sell 80% of the properties, and 80% of the people sell 20% of the properties, and sold real estate for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And but in academia, there are a few people on this campus that really make a difference in terms of its prestige, in terms of its recognition, in terms of really making a contribution to their discipline. Other people want to hire them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a market.
Yes.
You have to pay them. And when you do that, there'll be other people who have not made this kind of contribution, and they're going to say, well, how about me?
Mm-hmm.
I certainly, among the many mistakes I made a classic mistake in that area. So while I was here, so came very close to a vote of no confidence. But I wouldn't change it. I just sort of handled it in a more, somehow I could have handled it better. But some faculty have been here a long time. And you can see from their point of view, what are we doing here? I've committed my life to this institution, and I'm not being recognized for this. And therefore, there's got to be a bad guy, and I think I know where his office is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. I think any president that won't tolerate that, I think shouldn't be president. I think it's just balancing that to keep. The board never understood that. They never understood tenure. They never, why in the do you put up with this stuff, Halligan, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
In New Mexico, there's one who would take out a tin of snuff. When it got really bad, the faculty were talking. He would put snuff in his mouth, and he never expectorated. He just so. But that's because they live in a different world with different expectations. I think you have to have tenure. I'm a full believer in tenure. I think it's absolutely essential. On several occasions, there were faculty that were doing sensitive things. And I had a group come to my office and say, we just have to shut this down. This is not good for our industry, et cetera. And I said, I can't do it. And they said, what do you mean you can't do it? I said, I'm not going to do it. He's tenured. I said, if he writes a paper and it goes out and everybody says, this is incorrect, this is wrong, what this guy's doing is incorrect, we'll find out about it. But academic freedom says, he has a right to do this, and I'm not going to shut him down. I just think it's, so tenure is absolutely essential, but there's nothing that is perfect and without defects of any kind. There are people who exploit it, and then they just retire in place. And so that's, that there's always attention that's going on. And when you go to social occasions and things like that, Anne was very gifted socially. And she knew I was always ready to go because there would be people come up and say, you know, I've always wanted to be able to tell you. And so that was an integral part of the job. And nobody forced me to do it. I mean, I could have stopped any time, you know. So it was all volunteer. And I enjoyed it and was flattered to have the opportunity to sit. But you had to realize, and I felt really sorry for some of those people. I thought somebody should have had I thought they were so talented they could make a difference somewhere, but this was not the place they could make the difference. And to have a department or a department head that didn't have the courage to, or a dean didn't have the courage to articulate that to them, I thought it was a tragedy for them and a tragedy for the institution. Sorry.
Oh, no, we were good.
Going on.
Okay, I think we're probably at a good stopping point for today. It's about 10 after 12.
All right.
Is there anything that you can think of that you want to add about any of these topics that we've covered today?
The topics that I would,
I think we're going to need to meet again and cover some additional topics.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the Senate a little bit, but doesn't have to be.
I would like for you to talk about that. I was thinking we might move into that later.
Yeah.
If we're looking, you know, like we're moving through your time at OSU.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, I think several things I'd like to say in the right way.
Okay.
We had some incidents here. Everybody has incidents, but we had a fraternity that staged an event with one guy with a Ku Klux Klan outfit on, escorting one of his members with blackface and a rope around his neck. Okay, that was an exciting event. We used to, they don't anymore, I don't think, but that's their decision. We used to have a teepee we would put up on the campus annually and celebrate the Native American contribution that they've made to Oklahoma, etc. And some fraternity members on their way home from Joe's desecrated it. I'll use that word. And the interesting part about that was the next day when I came to my office, an individual from that fraternity came and said that he knew who had done it. And so we began that investigation. And then his mother came to my office. The other members of the fraternity said they were going to pound him into the ground every time they saw him for being disloyal to his group. And so she wanted police protection for him on the campus. And after reflection, I said no. I said, do you want me to get off campus if he goes to Joe's? Do I have to have a policeman go with him? Am I going to assign a policeman to him all this time? And that family had never greeted me warmly. So we had some the betas. I shut them down. So we had they were having activities that I did not approve of, and I visited with them. Thought I had communicated with them clearly, but that I was found to be lacking in that department. So we shut them down for a while. So I guess if I was an incoming president, I'd like to know how did he handle some of those things. And I used to have a fraternity president almost always, rarely a sorority. President to the house. Oh, not every year and a half, I don't know. 2 every 3 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have a discussion about leadership and what was the appropriate things that should be taking place in their house. And that I wanted to have the right to come into their house at any time unannounced. And I would then do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some very interesting experiences there. So that's all right. It's all right. So I had some interesting experiences there. I don't know whether you're interested in those kind of things or not.
Yes.
But then I think I'd like to say, so how did it end? Turned out they had 3 people doing what we're doing now, at least 3. But we had 2, Marv and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very parsimonious with respect to the president's office. I don't know, patting myself on the back. But anyway, we tried to minimize our expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so frequently came in almost every Saturday we worked, and frequently came in on Sundays. Sunday afternoon, we worked in my office. Mm-hmm. And Marvin Keener was the provost, number 2. Mm-hmm. Wonderful man. Wonderful is not adequate to describe him. But I went down one time to his office. We didn't have to have a poll. We just walked in on each other. That's the way I always had it. Number 2, mm-hmm. We're all in this thing together. You know, somebody's there, they can step out while we.
And it worked both ways. That
yeah,
way.
yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we mm-hmm. cook these eggs and figure out what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. So I went down there, and he was very distraught. Very distraught. And I said, Marvin, as of this moment, you are no longer provost. I said, Marvin, if you had a heart attack and died, I'd never forgive myself. And I know you've had some heart issues. Mm-hmm. So I love you like a brother, Marvin, but it's over. You may go home. Mm-hmm. So we were having a graduation ceremony, and I took the chair of the regent. She was kind enough to come with me in between ceremonies and got her out. We walked in, just the 2 of us in that arena. And I said, it's over. He said, what the hell do you mean it's over? I said, it is over. I said, I can't hire a number 2 because if she doesn't ask me how long are you going to be president, I shouldn't hire her. And she asked me, I got to tell her. When I came here, I told you I wouldn't do it more than 10 years. Mm-hmm. Okay? Well, sorry, but this game is over. I've loved it. You guys have been good to me. I appreciate what you've done. They did some things, they bought me some annuities, all this sort of business. They were very kind to us. Mm-hmm. And, but I said, it's over. Now I said, we can do a dance publicly and all that sort of stuff, but you can just tell the other guys it's over. Okay? So, and Marvin's wife said, She said, thanks.
Oh,
Thanks for giving me back my husband while he's alive.
oh. Mhm.
So, it was the right thing to do. You know when it's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
I mean, when it's the right thing to do, you rarely have significant, you're not perfect, but, I got to do it.
Mhm.
I got to do it.
Mhm.
And he was a great man, just a great man. And I won't go into it, but there are other people that if you can't do that, I interact. I recently went to the University of Arkansas, blew some smoke over there and interacted with students and so on. They invited me over and so on. And I said, if you can't fire, you can't hire.
Mhm.
Don't think it doesn't come with the territory. It does.
But it's hard.
It is hard.
Mhm.
It is hard. It never gets easier.
Mhm.
But if you think you're just going to be perfect, and I hired some real duds. Total, complete duds. I did. There's absolutely no question
You
about
can
it.
laugh about it now.
Yeah. And then I had to figure out a departure scenario.
Yeah.
And the best thing is to try to we were at Schmidley's house when she was crying. And I don't know how he phrases it, but he was done. That's the most adroit move I've ever seen a board make in all my years. No board has ever been better than that. Because I don't know, the chair of there's the myth, solely myth. Chair of the Board of Regents calls not the chief financial officer, not the next guy, but the next guy down. Boom, boom, boom. Says put $80,000 into an account for us to search for a new president. The guy says, yes, sir. The word rocketed around the campus. Schmidley knows they didn't have to buy him out. It was a magnificent move.
Oh, wow.
But by chance, we were at the house, at the res there, and I forget what the hell was going on. Something was going on. Every now and then, he was, oh man. But she was crying. I felt sorry for them. Sorry that they came here. I know the board hired him, but
maybe not a good fit.
It just wasn't. Just wasn't.
Yeah.
But nobody plays ever free baseball. I sure didn't. I'll tell you that. I hired some people who were just incredible. And I thought I knew people at those institutions. And, but there were some people who were hired here that
Well,
I probably was pretty quiet. So I think that's okay. I've wasted your time. Sorry.
No, you're not wasting my time. So.
All right, we'll just get together next time.
We will. We can continue.
Because I would like to talk a little bit about the Senate. That was a great experience.
I would love for you to talk about that. I think there's some things that we might look at next time related to scholar development, research development.
I did a poor job in research development.
We'll talk about that. Campus traditions, you've touched on that here. So some things like that I think could be part of our next discussion.
Okay.
So I think we've covered a lot of ground today in terms of opportunities when you came and how some of the different things were handled.
God was generous to us.
Mm-hmm.
Really generous to us.
Well, you worked very hard. I can certainly tell.
Yeah, but you also you have to have luck along the way. You know, just it was it was it was so sad leaving New Mexico. We loved those people that loved us. They had the Hilton Hotel. They reserved the ballroom for Ann and I, and they had food and all sort of this. And we all stood in line, and they all took their food, goodbye pictures with us. Oh my God, it was just. So that's why here, when I decided, I said, you can put up a board and people can sign it, and that's it. I'm not having any.
Big send off.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm. Well, was it different too because you knew you were going to stay in the Stillwater community?
Well,
and you weren't
it was interesting.
seeking another position, or?
Well, yeah, and of course, when I stopped, we went. I didn't exaggerate here. See, so the first year I taught in Thailand. Okay, taught a course in Thailand, Southern Thailand. I love telling about that.
What I'll
put down Southern Thailand.
I will.
Love that. I love that. That's you'll be. Then I had that Fulbright in Germany. Okay, and I was so the board asked me, so what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go to the College of Education. I told you this. I think I had.
No, but you may have. Bill Welge did an interview.
Okay.
With you for the Oklahoma History Center.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen that, for God's sake?
I've seen that interview.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you got better things to do than that.
Oh no, this is what we do when we prepare for the interviews.
Okay.
So.
The name it. I'm sorry.
But no, don't feel like you're repeating or anything. No, go ahead.
But the name it. So so they said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, chemical engineering doesn't need me, to be honest with you. The goal was down, and and I said, I'd like to go to the College of Education. And they said, why? And I said, well, when I came here, one of the things I learned was that the college had lost its NCATE accreditation. And one of the first meetings I had with the chancellor of the state regents, he said, Halligan, you got to get that damn thing accredited. Come on, we can't be running an unaccredited program of one of our major institutions. What's going on here? So we had to arrange some departures, and we had to take some actions, that weren't pleasant, but everything worked out, okay? There was nothing in the paper or anything like that. And so I had to hire a dean, so I hired Ann Lotfin, was her name. But anyway, so when I hired her, I said, get accreditation. Now I said, I know, let me be honest with you before you take the job, okay? You're gonna have to knock some heads together over there. This thing is, they're just sitting on their tenure cushions over there and nothing's happening, okay? And so I said, your job is to get tenure. Well, she did it. But everything, there's nothing like a tenure full professor. There's nothing like them. I mean, there's just nothing like them. And so she had to get another job. I assisted her. She became vice president for something at Texas A&M Arcana or Texarkana or something like this. Okay, in other words, she parachuted out of here. Okay, so she launched out here. That worked out well. But I said, man, if there's a place in the university that I think has a challenge, that is it. So I went over and said, can I teach over here? I know you guys have to vote, Steve, why not? So they voted and said, yeah, I can teach.
And you being a person who likes a challenge, right?
Yeah. So it was delightful. And so I forget, I just taught a course of 1 or 2 courses a semester or something like this. I got to start. But anyway, taught 1 or 2 courses a semester. And then I said, I just want to work 1 semester, and then I'm going to travel. Okay. And so then I would teach, and then I was in Thailand, and then I taught, and then I've figured out the guy who ran the program for Germany, and there's a Marshall Fund, too much stuff. But anyway, I found a guy, okay? And he said, well, if you're going to come over here, you have to be here for a year. I said, I won't come for a year. He said, 6 months. I said, you can't do it, okay? He said, it's got to be shorter than that, okay? Ann's got all these friends and all this, you know, she's done lots of social activity. She's not going to walk away for that long. She said, okay, well, for God's sakes, honey. So anyway, so we get a full ride to Germany, okay? So that took us a year, okay? Taught and then the full ride. That was wonderful. We went all over hell after creation, and then came back, and then the next year we went to Bulgaria, okay, and I had a little nothing at the University of Plovdiv, and Ann had never seen Bulgaria. I think you're gonna love it, baby. It's wonderful, blah blah blah. So we did that, and then I came back, and then we ran for the Senate. So you know, it was busy. We had a wonderful time. Yeah. Wonderful time. It was, you know, God's just been unbelievably generous to us. So we say every day, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.